Okay, so the inside of this film, as you can see, it's all nice and shiny and clean. Not a speck of dust, not a speck of toner, not a speck of grease. It just looks fantastic. So that's what a good one, brand new, looks like. I'll just pause the video and we'll put this away because we don't want to damage it. Okay, so I'll show you what the brand new pressure roller looks like. There are two varieties out there. There are also a lot of counterfeits available on the market that goes with the film as well. If you're really short for cash, you can go on eBay where they're also being sold, but guess what, they don't work. There's so many counterfeits of these spare parts being made, it's not funny, and the quality is just, it's terrible. So we've got these ones. So this is what a good one of the second series release looks like. You can see there the surface is perfectly smooth all the way along, and on the edges of the roller there is a sort of a feathered in ripple pattern that's used to provide traction to push the film along. Only Brother machines that I'm aware of have this. You won't find that on any Hewlett-Packard or Canon printer. Yep, so these parts, they're all available on our website. You can buy them singly or buy them as a kit, depending what you need. You'll also get grease, a tube of grease, because inside, this is what we're fixing today with this, is the grease inside this fuser film will be contaminated with toner from the crappy toner the customer was using. So we have to pull all this apart. We need to clean the inside of the film, we need to clean the surface of the heater plate, just remove all of the baked on toner, all of the baked on grease, and we're going to, in this custom machine, we don't need to replace any parts, we just need to re-grease the unit. Now, because I do a ton of these a week, we also have the grease available in a pot. That's for doing hundreds of fuser units. So in this tub there's enough grease in there to do probably about 200 to 300 fuser units, and we'll use pretty much one tub every 6 months. And the other thing is this grease, it's totally, I couldn't work out in the early days why I was getting callbacks after pulling the fuser unit apart and changing the grease. We'd get continuous callbacks where the problem would reoccur, the grease would bind up and fail. As it turns out, in these Brother machines, the grease that they use is totally different to what gets used in Hewlett-Packard and Canon fuser units that look identical. It's a completely different grease technology. If you pull this apart and you're a Hewlett-Packard Canon trained technician and you pull out your pot of Hewlett-Packard fuser grease, you'll be back out to visit the customer in approximately 3 weeks to redo it all over again. This grease is fantastic. It's the best fuser grease I've ever seen. It has really low friction properties, and if you rebuild a Hewlett-Packard fuser unit using this stuff rather than the recommended Hewlett-Packard stuff, the fuser unit will just go on and on and on for ages. It really is something about it. So yeah, so if you've rebuilt one of these fuser units, you've used Hewlett-Packard or Canon fuser grease, it just doesn't work. It's not the same stuff, and the reason they've had to come up with this grease is because of the heater plate inside. So when I pull this apart and show you, you'll see that the heater plate, if you've pulled apart a HP or a Canon fuser, HP and Canon have a patented heater plate. The heater plate is made from a ceramic with a tungsten heating element bonded onto the surface of the ceramic heater plate. To get around paying royalties and to not infringe on HP and Canon's patented fuser, they've created a different style of heater plate. It's really cheap to produce, obviously, but in order for it to work with this steel heater plate rather than a ceramic heater plate, which has really low friction properties, they've had to come up with a completely different type of fuser grease to make the two work. So yeah, the grease that's used in HP and Canon printers doesn't have to be as slippery because it has a ceramic heater, which it in itself is already slippery. So we'll just put that away. So when you buy the parts from us, you get a tube of the grease with it, of this stuff, in a syringe form, and we'll show you how to apply it later on. So we'll just put that aside. Okay, now the hard part of getting this apart is you have to remove the pressure springs. You've got one pressure spring here, and there's another pressure spring here. They're really difficult to remove. You can break the plastic molding if you're not too careful getting it out, and if you slip with the screwdriver you can also puncture the surface of your film, just because they are so hard to get off. So the way I get them off is we just stick a screwdriver underneath, and we lift it up and over, and then that releases the arm, and the arm comes up and that locks into a pin which is in the molded plastic. So that locks in to there like so and goes over. Now there are left and rights, so don't get them mixed up. Put that side over there. So that's that side, and we'll do this side. Now you got to be really careful because you can break this plastic if you put enough pressure on it. I can only get away with it because I've got this type of thin screwdriver. Lift it up. You can also go at it from this way. Get it up.